Yes, every week we end this show optimistic that the new week will bring us loads of good tidings. Well, unfortunately, we get disappointed with the many sad and heartbreaking news all around us, especially things happening which tear the family and society apart.
The past days defy my expression. I really haven't been able to put my fingers on a lot of the horrible, horrible things that have happened in the past 1 week since we were last on this show. And the questions on the lips of so many people, including myself, is why is there so much evil in the world today? And why so much evil in Nigeria today? Why has life become so valueless? Why do we have so much brutality, killing, maiming, and all of that around us? Why is it on the increase, John? What's happened to us as human beings?
It's a huge question mark there, because we really don't know what's happening. There's so much happening, tension.
Wow.
Well, I sincerely hope we get some answers as well as a turnaround for the better. Hello and welcome to another edition of Today with John and Helen, live, your wholesome family show. And happy Easter to our Christian partners, brothers and sisters. My name is John Senaya.
Every week when we sit down here, I'd like to start this show really happy with my face smiling and all of it. But unfortunately, sometimes I really can't find the smile. Well, today on the show, we remember the ultimate sacrifice that was paid many, many years ago by one who knew no sin, but paid for the sins of all Christians. And so we join Christians today, this weekend, to celebrate the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And we hope that there will be some difference in the lives of
all of us.
Faithfuls, yes.
Yes, of course.
And so it's a victory of good over evil. From all of us here on the show, it's Happy Easter, even when we think about all the bad things that are happening. I'm Helen Omaudele. Good morning.
And as we celebrate Easter, yes, as we celebrate Easter, we dedicate this week's show to everyone, man, woman, young and old, who has ever been abused, violated, dehumanized, and made to feel worthless by another. It's a conversation dedicated to unearthing the evil called domestic violence.
Yes, it is. So we invite you to share this experience with us. Today's show is like none other. I can tell you that. Believe me. Time to take a very quick break. When we return, we turn on the heat as we look at domestic violence. And by the way, we have a survivor in the studio to share her story. Please don't go anywhere. This is Today with John and Helen on Plus TV. We'll be right back.
Thanks for staying tuned, and a happy Easter celebration to all our Christian brothers and sisters. This is the program totally dedicated to everything that is family friendly. If you've just joined us, you are welcome.
And John, my heart is so heavy, but we should take a peep into events of the week. Anything that made you a little happy and probably thought there was some hope somewhere?
Let's talk about a little confused.
A little confused, okay? Okay.
Because I've been reading all kinds of stories about the Lekki toll plaza. Nobody knows if it's taking effect or not. We saw pictures of armed policemen at the toll gate.
Wow.
And it's like, by this morning, I read that it's been suspended again, just to allow people to register for it.
Armed policemen at the toll gate. Is that a war zone?
Armed policemen.
Armed policemen at the toll gate.
At the toll gate. But we're told the governor has stepped in.
Okay.
And
so there's a postponement.
I didn't know what.
But the issue of that toll gate and the NSAS thing is stalemated.
It's still there.
We haven't concluded what happened and where to move to. So why is a decision being taken about on the toll gates?
Yeah, well, I think revenue is...
So when you talk about confusion, there are a lot of things confusion.
Yeah, revenue is being lost at the toll gates, and that's very important.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's very important to who you may ask.
That's the big question,
That's a
Helen.
big question.
That's the big
and this week also, Ebele, Obiano woman is very much in the news. Sometime in the week, they say she was picked up for alleged one crime or the other. She's been questioned. I don't know if she's been let off. And so that is somebody who is also vying. She's trying to be, to go into the house of... she's trying to go to Senate from Anambra State, and with all of the history, with all of the stories surrounding her, and then you begin to ask yourself, what kind of society are we in at this point in time? But that's where we find ourselves. Yeah. And unfortunately, something that gave us the reason for this show, very sad news. The Ekweme girl, that is one song, one worship song that is awesome, and everybody got hooked onto it. Unfortunately, we do not have the true story of what happened.
We don't yet. It's really unfortunate, but I hope that this will mark a turnaround, like we said earlier.
We pray so that somebody's life is lost and so many others are saved. I read, I think, was it on Wednesday or Thursday, that a girl whose wedding was like a week ahead called off the wedding, because she saw some red flags already, and she's like, I don't want to be there.
This is getting serial now. I don't know.
That's the word, Syria.
It's getting serial.
Syria, because we're in a world where people are not punished for being wicked. We talk about it like this. The press is on things like this when they happen, and give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and it simmers down, and some other things just come and take front. I'm sure
we should unravel all of that a bit somehow.
All right.
When the program starts, Helen.
Okay, we will. We will. All right, so the reality of the evil of domestic violence, domestic abuse, or intimate partner violence, these are words, telling us the same thing, is the focus of today's show. Against the background of the happenings from the past few days, we shall attempt today to walk down on learning this very, very bad behavior, as well as find out what impact it has on the family and the society at large. Yeah,
and so to take us through her ordeal, experience, and victory is Ivie Edobor, mother of 3, a victim who has been in and out of court and hospital after she was brutally assaulted by her estranged husband, and with a lot to show for it.
Yes, a lot and a scar to show for it. Our guest is a strong, determined single mother. She's ready to fight for the rights of her 3 beautiful daughters and any other woman, come rain, come shine. She's currently head human resources for a telecom service company. Our guest shares her painful story, no more as a victim today, but thankfully as a survivor. Please join us to welcome Ivie Edobor to Today with John and Helen.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I have goosebumps, as I'm talking about you. Yes. And I'm just meeting you for the very first time. Thank you for taking time to speak with us today on this matter.
I'm very glad to be here, at least to share. Maybe one or two people will be saved.
So I'll be the one to dive in first.
Okay.
So now it looks like we're in the season of domestic violence. The media is awash and inundated with news of abusive husbands, wives, fathers, partners, and what have you. Some say it's always been like this, okay? But we believe otherwise. What's your position? Has it always been like this?
My position is that it's always been like this, but we were in the age where you couldn't talk about it. It still happens now, because of the backlash. A lot of people fear, the backlash. But I think a lot of people are braver now. A lot of people speak about it, me being one of them. And so many people speak about it now, really. It had happened to a lot of people before, but nobody had, had the guts to speak about it. But people speak about it now, and that is why you hear so much about it now.
Okay, so could you please broaden the domestic violence spectrum for us? Of course, it's not restricted.
Yes, that was what I was about to say. Okay. Domestic violence is not restricted to the physical part. It starts from the emotional part. It can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be psychological, it can even be financial. Those are all part of domestic violence, because what happens with domestic violence is that somebody tries to cage you using something as a weapon. It might either be physical, obviously, or somebody belittles you 24/7. It's also domestic violence because you start to feel little of yourself. It can also be financial. The person takes away everything that will give you the power to be able to do something on your own. So financial restraint is also domestic violence, really.
Financial restraint.
Oh, yes. And that happened to me, too. Because when we started, I have always been a forerunner in my field. I started with telecoms. My ex was in the banking industry. And after being in telecoms for such a long time, I decided to veer into the banking industry. Obviously, with the experience that I had from telecoms, I wasn't going to start from the base.
Sure.
Yeah. So I started, at a higher position in the bank. He was in another bank. I was in another bank. And it became an issue. Really. Wow. Because it was more or less you're trying to compete with me. And the department I was in opened me to meeting a lot of people that were higher than him where he was. I was in procurement, and so I had to meet MDs of big companies, telecoms companies, computerware companies. And so you go out, and I have people, wanting to meet me. Mrs. Ivie, Mrs. V, and he's standing next to me, and he's like, and so when you get home, it's World War III.
So the point is that the spectrum is really
you can't limit it to anything. It can be anything.
Yes.
It can start on anything.
Yeah.
As my mother will tell you, now from clap they enter dance. So it's like an event. It moves from one stage to another before it gets to it escalates to the physical part.
Yeah. Okay. Now, well, no prize. No prize for guessing that domestic violence never occurs without warning signs, right? So, what are these? What kind of warning signs, and why do many choose to ignore them?
I had a lot of warning signs, but as you say, we choose to ignore them. I think my reason was because my parents knew from the get-go that I did not want to get married.
Okay. So every reason you brought forward was like an excuse.
Every reason was like an excuse to leave. I didn't even talk about it because I felt that they would think it was an excuse. And so I dealt with it. But it started from having a conversation with somebody, and he always had to win the conversation. If he did not win the conversation, it was a problem.
So that's a warning sign.
Oh, yes. Because you can't have a conversation with somebody. You guys are on two opposing sides. You can't always win. I have my view, you have your view. Okay. And everybody should be able to have their view. But when somebody takes the other view and you get angry about it, then it's a problem.
So what are the signs?
Then you have somebody that is very hot-tempered. Somebody decides to throw things because you are angry. Or somebody decides to keep malice with you. You stay in the same house and the person is not talking to you, he's not eating your food or whatever. It's a warning sign. It's a red flag.
But can't these things be resolved?
It can only be resolved when the other party wants it to be resolved. If he doesn't want it resolved, nothing happens. You're now on the receiving end. You always have to be the one to say I'm sorry. And if I don't say I'm sorry, then the quarrel continues.
We even know from experience that even before you get married, Now we're looking at domestic violence as it relates to couples.
Yes.
Because like you say, domestic violence is...
It's been with us forever.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
mean,
there
it's
forever.
not even just restricted to couples.
No, no.
You know.
Yeah.
So now let's look at this issue of couples and domestic violence. Even before you get married, there would have been some signs.
I think it was part of the problem I had. We did not court per se. Like I told you, I didn't want to get married. And so it was a situation where he is a cousin to a close family friend, and then they match made us. Let's say we met sometime in October, by January I was married. So I didn't have the opportunity to sit down and learn it. But by the time we got married, I started seeing it. Even if it wasn't on me initially, maybe siblings, and then, you know, a sibling steps out of line and he throws it. That is, and I'm like, okay. And then you want to believe, or you want to convince yourself that it stops with the sibling. It won't get to you now. After all, he will respect me enough not to bring it
Because
to
it's about a personality, it's about a character trait.
Yes.
It's about the makeup of that person. Sometime this week too, while I was pondering on this, I stumbled on a write-up that they were talking about. We have loads of boys in men, you know, in the body of men.
Yes.
Boys who haven't really been schooled on what it takes to be the real man, worthy of a husband and a father.
Really, because you don't react to everything. I feel that the more mature you get, you know, the more it becomes necessary for you to be able to sieve through certain things that you ignore and certain things that you react to.
Yeah.
But the way it is now, everybody just want to react. You react without thinking about it. That isn't what a man that is mature and ready to be married does. There are certain things that you ignore. Really.
Well, could we try? Let's try and balance.
So it's not really about whether you courted for 5 years, 10 years before you settled in.
Some of those characters are there. They are there naturally.
I was going to try and balance this out a bit, because I mean, it looks like we're beginning to say you're not a man, you're a man, a man.
No, not necessarily.
Because even women champion domestic violence.
I use myself as an example.
Most
At a
times-
point in my life, even with my children, I used to be very hot-tempered. Me as a person, with my children, I used to be very hot-tempered. After a while, I just assumed that I was taking my anger out on them. And so I had to retrace my steps. And rather than reacting, I sit down, I think about it a bit before I go and I talk to them. So I had anger issues before, especially when I just got separated, because it was as if I bottled so many things inside, and I started reacting to my children. So it can be either way. I've seen some women that are violent, throw things around, break things, and have a very sharp tongue too. So it can be either way. It's just that it's prevalent with the men, especially when you know that you are stronger than someone. You have a tendency to want to, you know, hinge on that.
Yeah.
And the strength and the fact that you talked about the financial independence and that aspect. So that makes it more prevalent with them.
When you're totally dependent on somebody, finances becomes a weapon. Because I have to come to you for every single thing I need to do. And if you don't make it happen, then it doesn't happen. It hurts me. And that is that's indirectly trying to, you're breaking me. Because if I can't do it, and I know that I have to come and meet you to ask you to do it, and then you tell me no, it breaks me. It breaks me in bits until I become I think so little of myself.
Self-esteem.
Especially when you're a woman, you have those little things. I want to buy sanitary towel, I want to change my pants, I want to do, and then you have to go and walk up to a man to tell him to give you, and the person doesn't give you. It breaks you inside. You think so little of yourself.
Well, we're going to another territory altogether. Because a lot of people will ask you today, why would a woman be completely dependent on her spouse? I mean, she's not an invalid. even if she was, there are a couple of things that the wife could do. But today we're looking at the violence issue, and you are here as a survivor. And so we're going to concentrate on your story and your experience so that we can help a lot of people who are out there with whatever questions and whatever issues they're dealing with at this point in time. So there seemed to be a code of secrecy attached to domestic violence. What are the implications of this? And why would we not speak out? Why are you dying and you can't say, I am dying, I need help?
I tell a lot of people that it's the fear of the unknown. I tell people that I took that blind leap of faith, because it's a blind leap of faith. You really don't know what is on the other side. But why a lot of people keep silent right now is because there's a backlash that comes with it. I still face that backlash. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of relatives. I lost a lot of colleagues that felt that speaking about it was a taboo.
Even in the 21st century?
Oh, yes. I had family members that said, these kind of things are not things you talk about. I'm dying. Mine was even worse because I had already walked and you attacked me after I had left. But it was still a taboo because they play that leg, is he not the father of your children? And I'm saying, am I not the father of his, am I not the mother of his children? Didn't you see my children's face in my eyes when you attacked me? But it's there. A lot of people, I feel that even the lady in that, the musician that died, it could have been anything, because you have pastors that tell you that it's not something to talk about.
Yeah.
You have people in the church that would have chastised her for talking about it. You have friends and family that will still have talked about it. When I talked, I was in hospital for a while when my leg got broken. I was in hospital for a very long time, battling to save my leg. But in that time, I got the fillers. My dad had gone to the where I had filed the case and took it off and said, no, we're going to settle. You want to settle it out of court. And so I'm saying, why do you want to settle it out of court? You're settling it out of court because you want to keep a cap on it. You don't want people to hear about it.
Yeah.
And when I felt that was going to happen, I put my story out on social media, because social media is like wildfire. You can't stop it anymore. You can't even control it. And so by the time I put it out on social media, there was no stopping it anymore. It changed the dynamics of things. Because while I was in hospital, they were doing a meeting within the family to try and settle. As in, we were going to settle and then you were going to send me back so that I can die finally. But there's the backlash. Even today, I still have people that talk about it. You don't want to become, you want to be Mrs. Somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Mrs.
want
somebody
that
alive or dead
title of being a single parent, because that being a single parent also comes with its own dynamics.
True.
You want to get a house, they tell you to bring a man.
True. Yeah.
You want to travel with a child, you have to bring a man. You go to some functions and people are wondering,
where is the mister?
Where is the mister? And so a lot of people fear that. Some other people fear the financial part of it. When you leave, what next? Not everybody has the mind to do odd jobs and certain things to be able to cater for your children. A lot of people just want to continue with the life that they were living comfortably when they were with the man.
And especially if you have younger children.
Oh, yes.
How do you explain? How do you make them understand?
But I felt, especially because I have 3 daughters, I didn't want them to grow up with the impression that it was okay for that to happen. I had a lot of people say, you have daughters, why are you putting their father all over the place? Why are you fighting him? Why are you, taking their father to court? Why do you want to see their father in jail? And I'm saying, the fact remains, he did something that merits him being in jail.
Okay, let me dive in at that point, because it takes, in the context of this discussion, it takes a brave woman to be able to come and do what you're doing now. Speak out. Okay, victims of domestic abuse, oftentimes don't know when to cry out. When and where do we draw the line and say, hey, enough is enough? When and where?
Look, I think everybody has, it's just like how everybody has their own threshold of pain. I drew the line when it became physical.
Okay.
I drew the line when it became physical.
How physical did you get?
Oh, I've received, slaps. I've been locked out of my room before, and then I have to go and sleep in the children's room. I've been talked down to in public.
Called you names.
Called me names, told me that I did not make him a man because he doesn't have a son. So certain people draw the line. I know a few people that won't even take the insult. Once the insults and belittling starts,
they walk.
They walk.
They cry. They move.
And they're like, no, I can't take it anymore. But I felt sometimes you sit down and you think that the person is going to change. But now I tell my children that what you can't change before you enter into the house only gets worse when you get in.
True. Because now there's a reason for you to stay there.
You can't change it. And then some people stay because of their children, because they feel that their children will be judged, will be given titles. But I have groomed my children in such a way that I tell them some things are not acceptable. They are not acceptable on any grounds.
But
either way,
doesn't it negate our cultural belief?
That cultural belief is what has sent a lot of people to their grave as we speak, because a woman is not meant to be heard. I read somewhere, I think that was yesterday, and a man said that part of the reason why some women get beaten is because you reply the man. Some of the reasons why women get beaten is because you want to rub shoulder with the man. And I'm like, in this day and age, where we share bills, and I can't have a say.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's traditional thing. When I got back home to my father's house, my father kept me in the room that I stayed in as a child and said that we had to be there because we weren't supposed to be seen or heard. It was as if it was a taboo for people to know that I came back home from my husband's house.
Okay, we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up from there, because right now
a woman is not supposed to be heard. A woman is supposed to be protected, shielded from every form of violence and danger and evil. Have a Fiesta said, never be pushed into silence. Never allow yourself to be made a victim. Accept no one's definition of you as a person. Rather, define yourself. That's what's running through my mind at this point. That John has said we need to take a break. So if you just joined us, there is a lot more to hear from our guest on the show this morning and to learn about domestic violence. We'll take that quick break and we'll be back before you know it. Please don't go anywhere.
Yes, it's today with John and Helen on PlusTvAfrica, and Ivie Edobor, our guest today, the domestic survivor of violence, domestic violence, is still with here in the studio. Ivie, once again, thanks for joining us on this show. Helen,
so
I'll allow you to fire now.
Okay, so let's fire. For victims of domestic abuse, analyzing and talking about it is not enough, because there's a lot of talking about it, the media, everyone. What is more important is how to stop it. So, what advice or steps would you recommend to many victims of domestic violence who are either too scared or too timid to free themselves? What should they do?
Well, there are a lot of support groups now. Before, there weren't so many support groups, so people didn't know who to turn to or who to speak about it without getting judged. But now there are so many support groups for domestic violence survivors. There are support groups for single parents. There are support groups for I know I'm part of one a support group that has both single, married, but it's called broken but not I've forgotten, but it just means that you made it.
It's only a female group.
It's a female group.
Not
it's a female group.
Female.
We also have another group that is movement against domestic violence and all that. That has both female and male. Now, in those kind of groups, you also have legal practitioners. You also have members of the society that have a say. You also have members of the police force. Because I feel that the more you talk about it, the more people tend to understand what you are going through, and it's easier for you to get justice. My problem with the justice system, unfortunately, it doesn't work, really,
at all
in our own society.
Okay.
It gets to a point, and then it stops. My case, for example, my case was on in court, but my ex was able to get an American visa and leave the country while the case was
still on. Okay.
How did that happen?
So inconclusive.
Now, he has jumped bail and skipped the country. There's a bench warrant. But what next? So it comes to a halt. And these are part of the reasons why a lot of people don't even bother.
Yeah.
Because I tell a lot of people, when you leave, what next? Is the question on everybody's mind. Especially for, like, my case is even different because I'm tough. I could move with the tide. But there are some people that they don't have anything doing.
They're broken for life. Completely.
You're totally broken. And then they feel so sorry for themselves that they can't take the next step.
Yeah.
There are some people that do not have, they want to leave, but they do not have anywhere to go to.
And it makes it worse.
And
when
so
the
you
partner
stay.
knows that you have no other option.
Well, you see, the first port of call usually is expected to
The family.
is the family. You know, as a support group. You know, what role do you even expect a family to play?
I think now people understand that it is okay for you to come home. There was that notion of, it's not okay for you to come home. Stay where you did. I've married you off, But people need to understand, or parents need to understand, that it's okay for your child to come home.
Back home.
Come back home. Because a lot of people will not be accepted back home, and so they stay. But if you have a family that is going to welcome you back with open arms and say, I'm glad you came back alive.
So marriage
first,
is not expulsion.
And coming back home, it's really not like final. There's need for that point where you welcome and encourage that person to come out of trouble, to give family members and friends the opportunity to probably address the matter
because
and find
some
solutions.
families still see it as something bad. People need to understand that it is not bad. I would rather have my child back home alive in one piece than to see her 6 feet under.
Was your family supporting you?
My mother and my sisters all rallied around me.
Okay.
And so it was better for me.
Yeah.
I had that support from my siblings and my mother. My mother will always, Ivie, look, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
That was my question. You want to go? Her question was, do you want to go back or you want to leave? And I said, I'm not going back. I'd rather be alive and watch my children grow than to die. And she said, if that is what you want, then we're behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once you have that support, it becomes a bit easier. But a lot of people don't.
Because when you talk about what your mom asked, what do you want? It means that she recognizes that you are at a point where you can take a decision. But in situations where we marry off babies, very young girls, who really can't even take a decision for themselves, and they find themselves in this position, what does the society, what's in place for, like neighbors, somebody sees there's danger somewhere, can anybody speak out? Have you
I think it's now a lot of people are speaking up, obviously. I am one that will be driving on the road and I see somebody holding a baby or a child, where the danger is, and I stop. And I tell you, hey, put that child the other way. So people are a bit more exposed now. People are also able to pick the signs now, because you talk about it and people start to pick here and there. I tell people that we're going to keep talking until we are heard. It might seem as if people are not hearing, but people are hearing. Okay. People pick the signs. I, for one, can pick the sign if I see somebody that is having an issue. Take, for example, there's a child in my children's school, and my daughter came back and says, Mommy, this girl behaves funny. Sometimes she's looking at some funny things on the internet that children are not supposed to be looking at. And I picked it and said, that child is being abused. She's too young, in JS1, to be looking at stuff like that. And I called the owner of the school and said, I'm not telling you to make it obvious, but have a conversation with that child. Okay. And they did. And found out that her mother is not around. And she's growing up with just her dad. And her dad has all these, this person is working for me, this person is working for me. He's not around. And so it was a flag. And so it might not be something like that, but people have, you can actually pick those flags here and there. You might have a child that is melancholic in class all day.
Yeah.
You might even have an adult that is,
depression.
And then you pick it. Something is wrong somewhere.
Okay. I need you to elaborate a little bit more about this fear for stigmatization. Okay. You came out of it with all of the backlash. You're here.
Oh, yes.
So I need you to address that issue. How should we perceive? How important is it to really ponder and think about the backlash, stigmatization?
If you allow the fear of the stigmatization and the backlash get to you, you will remain static. You will never move from that point. You will still want that. A lot of people want that pity party, people feel sorry for me. But they're only going to feel sorry for you for a little bit. And then everybody goes back to their lives.
Everybody has their issues.
Oh, yes. And so, for me, I say the best thing is I developed a thick skin. Till today, I'm sure even after this show, some people are going to see me. And, stories are still going to come up. Yeah. People are going to dig up stories of, my messy divorce and all that. But I don't allow it get to me anymore. When people see me, a lot of people know my name. And they expect to see a woman that is, still, a shadow of herself and all that. I said, no. There is life after domestic violence. And the life will continue. Especially for those of us that have children. Your children see everything that you do.
Yeah.
And so if you still stay in that box, afraid of what people are going to say about you, you're never going to move on.
Sure.
And your abuser wins. Because that is what they want.
Yeah.
Even after you leave, they are still abusing you psychologically. And if at the end of the day, you go into a shell, they are still winning. Okay. Yeah. And so I tell people, get out of it. I changed a lot after what happened to me. I have extra piercings. Not because of anything, but I wanted to feel good about me. Not for anybody. I have a haircut. I have different hair colors. That is to make myself feel good. If you don't like it,
and you look
that's
good
your
too.
bit. Thank you. It's your bit.
Yes.
I try to take away the whole emphasis on my bad leg, because I agree I have a bad leg. All well and good. But I want to feel good about myself. I want my children to feel good about me. My children decide what, Mommy, are you going to put on another one? I say, where do you want me to put it?
Good.
Because you need to feel good about yourself. You need to take the bull by the horn and move on.
Okay.
Yeah. But you see, okay. sorry, this is getting really...
Go ahead.
Now, we've talked about family support, right? But there's so much, family can do in a situation like this. There are times when you need maybe legal backing, support and all that.
Oh, yes.
That points at government. What kind of support do you think victims of domestic violence or abuse are getting from government? Are they getting enough?
Unfortunately, okay, if it's in Lagos State, to some extent, yes. I won't hold that against them, because in my time, I had an NGO backing me, and today, we are, the woman means so much to me. Project Alert, Josephine Chukuma.
I know her.
She took me by the hand, got me a lawyer, followed up with me 24/7, ensured that my case was taken up by Lagos State, and followed up with Lagos State until the DPP was handling my case. Now, I couldn't have done that without the NGO.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be the NGO that is at the forefront. It should be the government.
True.
You put laws in place, but who follows through with it? Who ensures that it's being enforced? Yeah. Because when you go to the police, the first thing they tell you is husband-wife matter. And once that comes into it, it's gone. Nothing happens.
Okay.
The government needs to do a bit more. If they know that it's not something that they can do at the forefront, then they should set up or encourage the NGOs, empower them with the funding. Because I got a lawyer through the NGO, not through the government. It was my lawyer that followed up with the government, Lagos State, for the DPP to now be involved. If I didn't have that lawyer, nothing would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were the ones that upped my case from a case of just wounding to grievous bodily harm. It was the pressure from the NGO and the public, not the government.
Okay.
The government came after, yes, especially Lagos State. They encourage you with funding, a bit of funding to help you. They helped me with some of my bills and got me to be able to do physio and all that with the General Hospital. I think it's last suit or so in Ikeja.
Yeah.
So they do that and they give you a little something. But it doesn't end with just the physical pain. The physical pain is just a bit of it. The psychological one.
Yeah, psychological.
I don't sleep. My children call me chief security because I suffer a PTSD. I sleep, and when I fall into a deep sleep, I have nightmares. So I wake up. And so I'm awake 24/7, more or less. For my children, I didn't want them to have that wrong impression. And so they had to go for counseling.
Wow. This is...
Especially my last shrinks. Then she sees a man and she pulls back. And so everybody had to go for counseling. My second daughter is as tough as I am. And so she started having like a hatred. You know when you have children that have those T-shirts, I love Daddy, and my daughter shredded all, including the ones that her sisters had. She said, "With Daddy, what's that?" You mentioned Daddy in the house and she said, "Who is that? I don't want to hear that word." And so I knew that there was a problem. So sometimes you feel that it's just the two adults involved, but it affects the children themselves. I didn't even know my first daughter, had seen so much. I had to send her to, her cousins and all that, and she needed me to get a book for her. And I opened her bag and I brought out a book, and I saw on the book, my life. And so I opened it and I looked at it and I started shedding tears because she had seen everything from the ones I tried to hide.
And she had written them.
Oh, yes. From the ones I tried to code, the ones I tried, it was all there. Wow. And if you see my first daughter now, she's quiet. It's as if she processed it first. She processed it first. I want to process it well before I say something.
Yeah.
And so you need that help. You know, you can never overemphasize that the help that victims need. You can't overemphasize the help that survivors need. Yeah. There has to be a total rearrangement of the mindset of people, both the police, the government, even neighbors themselves.
I need to ask a question at this point, because when we're talking about the abuser and the victim, is there anybody really, male, female, that is born to abuse the other person? And if there isn't, for the person who is being abused, the victim, it gets to a point where you unfortunately begin to think that you deserve what you're getting.
Oh, yes. Yes. I have people that have told me when I was speaking of that, Ivie, you seem to, because when we were tackling this issue at the beginning, I had so much anger in me that I kept on reacting to everything he says. I react. And then people told me, don't you think that is this your sharp mouth that is making him to beat you? Okay. And I'm saying, I grew up in a house where my father doesn't touch a girl. Yeah. So why would he be the one to hit me? What happened to you talking to me?
Okay. Wow. Talking to me. That is the key word that we're taking at this point in time. Because everything about life is about communication. Exactly. Identifying that you're dealing with another human being who's got 100% right of her opinion or his opinion, just like you do. And there must be a point where we table the issues, you know, and arrive at a conclusion. And when that is unable to be achieved, then whether domestic violence or not, everything else is a challenge, is a problem.
I think you get to a point
where... A final word from you, please.
You get to a point where, rather than reacting, walk away.
Okay.
I say that. Rather than getting to the point where you have to strike another person, walk away. What happened to divorce? I'm not doing it again. I can't take it anymore. You go, and I'll go.
Well, I'm speechless, Helen. I'm just speechless. Thank you for...
This is a true life story. She's here. She walked into the studio with her, you know, the beautiful cane. Beautiful cane. I don't know why I'm using that word, but it says a lot about who you have become today. Oh, yeah. And you are a lot of help to so many women, men. That's why at the point I asked the group you belong to, are they men? Because there are also men who have been victimized. So this is a true story. And true stories leave us with a lot of hope and lessons, you know, that we learn for life. It opens the door, you know, for those who are trapped, and they help them to find answers and courage, you know, to break that circle of silence and to choose life over death. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. We wish you the very best. We wish you the very best. We're so proud of you, and you're beautiful. Thank you.
I was going to talk about the hairstyle, but we'll save that for another day. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Ivie. And we want to wish you success and the strength, to go all the way. Moving on, it's time to join the gym instructor for some shake-up, like we always do.
And immediately after that, Pharaoh Shonuga joins the show with her guest for an equally engaging conversation. This time, they're going to be talking about couples, joint bank account, another sore area. Right now, it's over to the gym instructor. Let's go. All right, so it's the Easter weekend show. It's Today with John and Helen on PlusTvAfrica. We have looked at so many things today on the program that affects the family. Like we always say, the essence for creating this show is to give the family a sense of belonging, you know, to ensure that we bring back the values that we used to know are associated with the family, and help solve some of the problems, you know, talking about them. They say a problem that is shared and talked about is like almost 100 or 50%.
Half solved.
Yeah, half solved. So we hope that the conversation with our guest this morning, or this on the show today, the survivor, has been able to open, you know, some doors for you. You've been able to pick one or two things to do, and probably for someone who needs to take a decision for life, you know, that we've been able to help you do that. John,
I see your passion, so much passion about this topic.
I am. It's not
But
just that.
It's understood.
I just
yes.
hate man's inhumanity, you know, against any other man, no matter in whatever form.
That's right.
I can't stand it.
So I can take my nugget.
Please
now.
do.
Okay. So my nugget today is you want to look professional and authoritative, but mostly you want to be yourself. You want to look professional and authoritative, but mostly you want to be yourself. And that's the authentic you. Now, the reason for this is that, yeah, most times we want to present ourselves on stage as being professional, authoritative. Maybe we acquire some kind of style from some other speakers that we have seen. But mostly, I think the most important thing, rather, is that you should be yourself, okay? Because any attempt to mimic
Someone else,
I mean, most times will make a mess of, you know, the authentic you. So look for the authentic you, your style, your poise, your flavor, right? And you can still be professional and authoritative. So that's the nugget for today.
Okay.
Find the authentic you. Be real.
Find you.
Be you.
Be real. Be you.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to be anybody else, you're only a copy.
You're only a copy.
You're only a copy, and nobody wants to be a copy.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, so we're winding down the show for today. Like I said, today has been it for me. I looked forward to this show, and I really have gained a lot from it. The red flags, John asked her, please, when you begin to see those red flags. And a lot of people now are creating their awareness on how to break the circle. And the circle starts with an intention. Your abuser threatens violence. Then your abuser strikes, gets into the action. And then your abuser apologizes, you know, and says he or she will never do it again, and comes with gifts and all of that. And then the circle continues. We must find a way to break it. On that note, I'm yours truly, Helen Ongma Odeleye, and I hope that today's program has had an impact on you. That's the essence. That's why we're here. See you again, same time next week. Meanwhile, enjoy your weekend. And happy Easter once again to all our Christian faithfuls out there. Thank you for watching. John.
See you again next week. Bye.